Nicole, and I am back with layout number 9 for my Easter version of Creating with Collections. And today I'm a little excited because I had been hoarding the pattern paper that was the 2x2 designs. That's one of my favorite things that Simple Stories does. I'm not sure if they're still doing it with the newer lines, but I enjoy it because it makes quick layouts. And here you can see I had cut a bunch of them apart, and I really relied on the ones that had Easter icons on them because I'm getting to the point where a lot of these stickers and die cuts I've already kind of used up that are very Easter specific. So I would normally cut out 2x2 squares like that and kind of add stickers to them, add chipboard to them, kind of decorate individually those little squares. However, this time I'm only going to do a couple because I am relying on the imagery that's on the 2x2 square itself. So I cut out the ones that I knew I wanted to use, and then I just grabbed some smaller scraps to kind of give me some more like blank squares to kind of give me an opportunity to either put a title on or add some of those stickers and stuff on there. I like to have a little bit of a break so where they're not all squares with images on it. And then I'm going to run them through my die cut machine. This isn't something that you have to do. It's just something that I personally like to do. And it's kind of a cheater method to make sure that all of the squares are going to be the exact same size. I'm one of those people that no matter how careful I cut things that I want to be a specific size, one or two of them for whatever reason doesn't end up being that exact size. And then if I am needing them to be a certain size to do something like this where it's a grid layout or things are going to be lined up, they never line up right. So my cheater method for that is to use a die if possible. So this is just a square die set that does like a pierced inner edging around it. This specific one is not available anymore. I will put a link in the description box. I think I had found one from a different company that was pretty similar because a friend of mine had asked about it and I sent her a link. So I'll see if I can find that and drop a link below for those. If not, basically, I think like a 2-inch square punch would do any kind of square dies. Basically, I'm just using it to make sure that those are all universal. Now, here's where I ran into an issue. You can see I have a gap. I made sure that when I cut that 3x4 card, I actually cut it down a little bit smaller so that the height of the 3x4 card was going to span 2 of those little squares. I didn't even think about the width of the card. So my solution to that is I'm just going to cut 2 more squares, and they're not even going to be full squares. Basically, I'm going to make it look like there was 2 more squares there that my photo collage is sort of sitting on top of. So I took advantage of some of the patterns where I had previously cut a circle on it, or there was only like a little sliver left. I only needed half of a square to put there. So that was where I'm going to die cut those from. My photos, again, just like the previous video and previous layout, I went to a go-to trick for me that just kind of helps speed things up and consolidates things, is to use a photo template. This one is an older one from Carrie Bradford. I believe it's Photos That Go Long. I'll post a link below. Basically, you just open it up in Photoshop, drag and drop your photos in, kind of resize them to what you want in each square. And then I just go ahead and print it at home on like a full sheet of photo paper and trim it down. I think this one is formatted to be like 5x10, and that ends up just kind of working out. And I like photo collages because I'm not having to move around all those little photos. It's just kind of like working with one large photo. And a lot of times I don't actually think about the photo collage as being a bunch of photos. I just kind of look at it as a large element or a large piece of real estate. And then I figure out what I'm going to do with the background based on that. So it sort of eliminates one of the processes. Like I don't have to sit here and think about, okay, what size do I need to print my photos? How am I going to trim them down? How am I going to arrange them? The type of thing that I would do on like a full size, like double page layout. This just kind of takes that part of the process out, and it's like, boom, this is already done. It's one piece. Figure out how you're going to work around this one big piece. And again, this is kind of why these little 2x2 cut apart pattern papers are some of my favorites, is because it just makes it easy. I can kind of pick and choose the patterns and the images that I want, and I can do something like this, or I used them on 2, maybe 3 layouts in the first series where it was like the family collection. It just kind of opens it up. So like I could have done a full page grid where it was like the full page of all the 2x2s, and instead of doing a photo collage, I could have I could have dropped in like 2x2 photos in place of some of those, or even like 2x4 photos, like that kind of thing. To me, it just kind of opens up different things that you can do, and I don't need to follow a sketch. I don't need to, like I said, I'm not having to work with these little squares and the photo collage in this, or separate photos in this instance, because I'm doing the photo collage. And the 3x4, again, the math on that doesn't necessarily work out. Typically, I like elements in a grid style layout to kind of all meet up, like all the horizontal edges, all the vertical edges. In this instance, I don't really care. It's basically just going to kind of make it look like those squares continue underneath my photos. And I'm okay with that. I kind of didn't know what else to fill in that gap with. I didn't want to cut out like a piece of pattern paper that was sort of solid to put there. So this was kind of my fix. And then I'm going to use that 3x4 card basically as somewhere to print my journaling. And then I've got that open, like cream colored B side for me to put my title. I don't need to have anything big. There's a lot of interest going on with all the squares. There's kind of a lot of interest and movement going on with all the different photos of my kids basically running around screaming that they had found an egg, and they weren't that hard to find. This was the age of, we can't really hide them. We literally have to just throw them on the ground and put them on the window seals and stuff like that. And then I did put a strip of like the stripe paper at the top and the bottom of the layout, just to kind of use it to add a little bit more interest, kind of break up just the grid design, that kind of a thing. And then I just went through the die cuts that I have left over and the sticker sheet that I have left over, and just kind of picked through what was left to see what I could make work. I'm going to add some of these little wood grain hearts that I hadn't used yet over on the little wood grain scrap. I didn't use any of like, I still got those little bunny circle icons, but I used both bunnies that were in the 2x2 squares. I'm going to cut up this phrase to kind of make it fit on this little 2x2 square, which the squares are actually smaller than 2x2 because I used the die. And that's another reason that I like to use the die, because it almost like forces you to have that little gutter showing between the squares. If you cut the squares apart as 2x2 and kind of try to spread them out, depending on how many you're doing, you're going to end up kind of running into the edge of your layout. So I actually prefer to use a die set. Like I said, it makes it easier for me to line them up. They're all a universal size, and it also just shaves like a tiny bit off for me to be able to span the width of a layout and have like that little bit of the background peeking through. Again, I kept just making sure that my journaling spot was gonna fit. I trimmed it down a couple times. I kind of saved that till the end just because I wasn't ready to get up. I was kind of trying to get most of the layout done while I was sitting there and filming, and then save the journaling for the end. I decided that I was going to be lazy and I wasn't going to die cut my own letters for this one. I had already kind of taken the time to go through and die cut all those squares. So I just went to my alphabet sticker stash and just kind of pulled a couple options as that I thought would work. Basically, I just kind of went and looked at like pinks and teals. And I'm going to end up using just this set of foam thickers. They're so old, but I've used them a bunch of times and I'm still kind of working through them. And I did want to mention that I'm not the greatest at coming up with titles or necessarily caring about having to have a title. Sometimes I won't put one. Sometimes I'll let a cut apart kind of speak for me. Couple layouts from this kit. I actually went to a resource that I had forgotten about, and it was this writing, I think it's called Writing to Remember, a class PDF type thing that Allison Davis from Scrapbook Generation had published. And there's a section in there, like the whole book is about different types of journaling and detailed journaling and type, different ways of doing it, different ways of typing it, handwriting it, that kind of thing. There's a whole section dedicated just to title ideas. So a couple times in these last few layouts, I just kind of went to that just to find something. So that might have been where I got the Egg-Cited from. I know that's where I got Basket Full of Love from, but a lot of times I'll just pull something off of like the sticker sheet and spell it out with letter stickers if I haven't come up with something on my own. I did have 2 typos, and I did not have the heart to redo my journaling, so I took a pen and just kind of fixed it, and you can just barely tell that it was a homemade fix, and I'm okay with that. The last thing that I added was I just grabbed a couple of these chipboard florals that I still have and just decided to kind of add those, get them used up, add a little interest to the layout. So that's the end of this layout. The next one will be a double page layout and probably be up in a couple of days. With that, I thank you guys for spending time with me today and watching my videos, and I'll catch you later.